Your first meeting with Montezuma is considered one of the most remarkable and consequential meetings between two leaders in history. I'm curious to know what your initial thoughts were when you first heard about him, and what it was like meeting Montezuma for the first time in the city of Tenochtitlan.
The native people of the coast had informed me about a prominent ruler and lord named Montezuma. He was described as a mysterious, mythical figure or legend. These allies disclosed to me information about the vast wealth of the Aztecs and their capital city of Tenochtitlan. I had been in communication with Montezuma through a network of messengers. He was expecting our arrival, and I was eager to meet him. We would move toward the capital city, and with the grace of God find this man called Montezuma and his treasures. Upon our arrival in the outskirts of Tenochtitlan, I was amazed by the city's exceptional sophistication and splendor, far surpassing that of any European city I had yet known. The grandeur, magnificence, beauty, power, and influence of the city were awe-inspiring, and evoked a sense of wonder in my mind, and the greatest fear in my heart that I had ever felt. I can tell you, fear and wonder are a powerful combination of emotions, my friend. We contemplated how we should approach the city. Through the deepest feelings of horror, some voices within my ranks cautioned that we turn back. We strategized at all hours of the day, and me and my men did not sleep for many nights, out of sheer terror. With the advice of my men and our native allies, I decided to appeal to Montezuma as a friend and ally. I needed to gain his trust before I could make any further strategies. As I approached the city on its causeway, there came to meet me nearly 1,000 of the principal inhabitants of the great city, all performing a salutation in common use among them by placing his hand upon the ground and kissing it. And thus I was kept waiting about an hour until all had performed the ceremony. Señor Montezuma and about 200 nobles came out to welcome us, after which Montezuma, flanked by 2 lords, walked down the center of the street, leaning on the arms of both men, and as we neared I dismounted and advanced alone to greet him. However, the 2 accompanying lords halted me to prevent my touching him. Montezuma and the 2 lords gave their customary salutation in the manner already described, after which Montezuma and I exchanged the finest necklaces our respective cultures could afford. After the welcome ceremony, we then proceeded down the street, until we arrived at a massive and splendid palace that had been fully prepared for our stay.
This was the first contact between the Spanish conquistadors and the Emperor of the Aztec Empire. The significance of this event cannot be understated, for Spanish and Aztec civilizations were completely alien to one another, and this first meeting would have profound consequences for Montezuma and his people. As we'll see, the way in which Montezuma receives Hernan Cortés is shocking. After settling into your new residence, you finally had the opportunity to have a private meeting with Montezuma. What did the 2 of you discuss during your first intimate conversation?
Our first discourse took place shortly after me and the people of my company were distributed to our respective quarters. Montezuma entered my residence bearing rich gifts, and after being seated on a platform, he spoke to me in the following manner. From ancient chronicles, we have long known that neither I nor the people here descended from the native inhabitants, but from distant foreigners. Our ancestors were brought by a lord who left but promised to later return. We have always believed that his descendants would eventually subjugate us as their vassals, and now, hearing of your arrival from the land where the sun rises, and your association with a great lord who has known of us for many days, we are certain of your rightful sovereignty. We shall faithfully obey you as the representative of this esteemed ancient lord, with no deceit, and all that we possess throughout the entire country is at your disposal. Several months later, Montezuma gathered all the lords from the city and neighboring regions for a meeting. When everyone was assembled, I was requested to join them, and Montezuma addressed the gathering in closely the same manner he addressed me. He spoke to them of their ancient lord and how this lord had returned to subjugate them, and that I, as a representative of King Charles V, was their new ruler for which they shall submit to and obey. All this he told them, weeping the greatest tears and the greatest sighs, expressing the full depth of a man's emotions. The lords who heard his words were also moved to tears and remained unable to respond for a considerable time. I assure you that not a single Spaniard who witnessed this discourse could help but feel immense compassion. After the lords had composed themselves, they replied that they recognized King Charles V as their sovereign and pledged to fulfill his every command and willingly embraced his authority. From that moment forward, they devoted themselves as loyal vassals to Spain, individually and collectively, promising to obey all orders given in his royal name, as dutiful and faithful subjects should. They also pledged to offer their tributes and services to the king, which they had previously contributed to Montezuma, and to comply with any other commands issued on behalf of the crown. All of this was duly recorded by a notary public at my request, in the presence of many Spanish witnesses.
Many historians seem to agree that the ancient Lord Montezuma spoke of is the Aztec god Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl was a major deity in Aztec religion. According to legend, he was believed to have been a historical figure who ruled the city of Tula and later departed, promising to return in the future. It is possible that Montezuma and the Aztecs mistakenly believed Cortés's arrival to be the long-awaited return of Quetzalcoatl. According to Cortés, Montezuma was extremely superstitious, and at times painfully naive, gullible, and easily influenced. If Cortés's accounts of what happened are true, then Montezuma effectively forfeited his entire empire and his imperial power to the Spanish immediately upon their arrival.